I had some questions about my Chevy Tahoe. It's not working properly. So I went to Santa Fe, I went to the tailor shop, and I asked the tailor inside, the refrigerant compressor for the air conditioning, the clutch is not engaging. Why? She looked at me kind of oddly and said, I have no idea. I've got this really nice suit here for $600 that I can sell to you. I'll make it fit really nice. You'll look really sharp in it. And she asked me, can I help you with that? Which I thought was a very evasive answer to my question. She ought to know how to fix my refrigerant compressor in my Chevy Tahoe. So I gave her a second chance. I said, well, okay, well, I have this other problem with the Tahoe. Every time I depress the brake pad slowly, the car kind of pulls a little to the left. Maybe you can tell me how to fix that. She looked at me again and said, I don't know. I've got this really nice suit. $600, you'll look really sharp. So of course, like every sane human being, I called her an idiot and stomped out saying, I'll have to go talk to another tailor. Meanwhile,
I think EPA this year should be flat spending, or at least no more than 2.5% increase. You're proposing a 6% increase. I mean, where does the money come from?
This genius senator just said that he's familiar with the budget, he's familiar with budget spending, the control thereof, and now he's asking the head of the Environmental Protection Agency, where's the money coming from? Even though it's in the federal budget and states exactly where it's coming from.
It is part of the President's proposal, which is not going to buy into the bad policy of sequestration, but he's designed a budget that can accommodate this. And
a United States Senator should have known that.
I would suggest that when we go to our states, the group we have the most complaints about from our constituencies, whether it's highway people, whether it's farmers, whether it's energy people, is an Environmental Protection Agency. Well, it's an extraordinary overreach.
That's right, by golly. That clean air, the clean water, the lack of lead in the environment, the, I don't know, the lack of pollution in the rivers and streams and lakes. Terrible, terrible overreach.
And you apparently aren't aware the pushback that's occurring in the real world.
Bank robbers also have this pushback when they're arrested.
That we've had fewer droughts in recent years. Do you dispute that?
That's right. In Colorado, there have been fewer droughts in recent years. United States, of which the Environmental Protection Agency regulates polluters in, has absolutely nothing at all to do with droughts. Plus, it covers the whole United States, not just Colorado. So why in the hell ask the head of the Environmental Protection Agency about droughts in Colorado?
The decrease in Colorado's drought index is extremely small. The Environmental Protection Agency does not regulate droughts.
Are you aware that the IPCC has found that moisture content of the soil is, if anything, slightly greater than it has been?
Yes. In high latitudes, where there are very few people, where there's very few crops being grown by those very few people, soil moisture has definitely increased. globally and in the United States, it has very slightly decreased. None of this has anything at all to do with the Environmental Protection Agency. The EPA does not regulate rain.
Here is a plot on that data as well. Latitude at the bottom, millimeters on the left. Golly, it sure has been increasing almost 0.02 of a millimeter. Whew.
Over the last decade. It's in their report. Are you aware of that?
I don't know what you're referring to, Senator, but I'm happy to respond. And
Well, you need to know because you're asking this economy to sustain tremendous cost.
No, she is not. She is asking for a 4% increase in the Environmental Protection Agency's budget, which has already been approved by the Executive Office, by the way, so that the Environmental Protection Agency can do its job. Has absolutely jack shit all to ask anybody about expending a massive sum of money for anything.
And you don't know whether or not the soil is worldwide is more moist or less moist.
I don't know where your cost figures are coming from.
I'm
but
quoting
if
the
you take a look at
IPCC. Second.
It's not her job! The Environmental Protection Agency regulates polluters in the United States. It is not the job of the Environmental Protection Agency to monitor and track soil moisture globally. It's not her job. Asking the head of the Environmental Protection Agency about global soil moisture does not make any sense to any rational human being.
What about hurricanes?
Hurricanes! He's asking the head of the Environmental Protection Agency about hurricanes. He's not asking the, I don't know, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration head about hurricanes. He's asking the head of the Environmental Protection Agency, who regulates hurricanes.
We had more or less hurricanes in the last decade.
The answer is more hurricanes. Also, more tropical storms, more subtropical storms. This has jack shit to do with the Environmental Protection Agency.
There have been more frequent hurricanes and more intense in terms of landing those hurricanes on land. I cannot answer that question. It's a very complicated issue.
Plus, it's not her job to answer such a silly question. Environmental Protection Agency, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, Hurricanes, Environment.
It's not complicated on how many have landed. We've had a dramatic reduction in the number.
Actually, he means an increase, not a reduction.
We've gone a decade without a hurricane class 3 or above.
That struck America. Meanwhile, there's this whole other planet, none of which has anything to do with the Environmental Protection Agency.
But, sir, the scientists are not really considering that number to be significant because the subset is so small that you're looking at, that you're taking issues in science out of context. And it's not my job
It's not my job to interrupt. She's pointing out the obvious fact. Hurricanes is not under the venue of the Environmental Protection Agency. It is not her job to be counting hurricanes.
Are you asserting that you have evidence that we have greater hurricane around the world in the last decade than the previous decade?
That's right, we have hurricanes. The planet has hurricanes. And over the past decade and more, the number of them have increased. The Environmental Protection Agency does not count hurricanes.
I'm asserting that I have plenty of evidence, factual evidence from scientists who know this issue, that climate change is happening, it's real, it's happening now.
Well, of course the climate is changing, Ms. McCarthy. I just ask you, you have been saying that we have more storms. Will you submit within a few days, it shouldn't take long,
I'm happy to submit all the science
that we've had more storms in the last
decade?
When
you say we, what are we talking about?
The world.
The U.S.?
The world.
Why, everybody knows that it's the job of the Environmental Protection Agency to count storms globally. An idiot knows that. Senator Sessions knows that. Meanwhile, it took me 0.67 seconds, according to Google, for me to find a global storm count broken up into types of storms, which show in the past 18 years a sharp increase in number in all of them. And this clown wants the head of the Environmental Protection Agency to take a few days and get that information for him, and it's not her job to do so.
Would you acknowledge that and over the last 18 years, that the increase in temperature has been very little?
The data show that in the previous 18 years, the global average temperature increased 0.30 centigrade with a confidence of 90%. Some people would call this very little. Climatologists call it a hell of a lot.
And it has absolutely nothing at all to do with the Environmental Protection Agency.
And that it is well below, matter of fact, 90% below most of the environmental models that showed how fast temperature would increase.
Environmental models? What the bloody hell are environmental models? There are climate change models. Some of them show how the global average temperature has been and is and will continue to increase. Some show precipitation. Some show soil moisture changes. Some show snowpack on high altitudes and high latitudes. None of which are 90% off. If this clown is talking about global average temperature, the models have been extremely accurate. For example, one of the longest models, let's take a look.
For example, Steve Hansen's projection, which he did in 1958. He took the business as usual increase in atmospheric greenhouse gases, chiefly carbon dioxide, that humans have been adding to the atmosphere. He projected that well into the year 2015, and here we see the observed increase in global average temperature. I ask you, does that look like it is 90% off? By the way, if the sun were driving the anomalous temperature increase, the blue line is more or less what we would see if it was the sun. Golly, it looks like it's almost 90% off from what we actually observe.
And need it even be mentioned again? Climate change models is not the venue of the Environmental Protection Agency.
No, I would not agree with that, sir. A 1 degree temperature is significant.
Yes, 0.96 centigrade with a confidence of 95%. Major significant. You will not find any climatologists out there saying, hey, golly, that's not a problem.
No. I'm asking you, is it below the models or above the models?
Senator Stupid here does not know what the hell he is asking. There are a hell of a lot of climate change models out there. they model different things. If you're talking about global average temperature, there are several different scenarios for each one of those models. We have been going as business as usual with our greenhouse gas releases. We have not been cutting back on those. It is going exactly how we expected it to go for the past 20 years or so. The observed increase in global average temperature is following the business as usual scenario within 3 or 4%, not 90%. Climatologists have a damn good understanding of the physics involved. The answer is very slightly below the projection for business as usual. It is not the job of the Environmental Protection Agency to know this. They do not do climate change models. A hell of a lot of other organizations do that.
I do not know what the models actually are predicting that you're referring to. There are many models.
She said a lot more politely than I did the same thing. It's not her job. What he is asking does not even make any sense. He has to specify which models he's talking about, which subsets of which models he's talking about. Saying the models is nonsensical. By the way, if he really wanted to know the answers to these questions, why doesn't he let her answer them?
And sometimes it's actually going faster and sometimes slightly slower than the model predicts.
And even though it is not her job to keep track of climate change models, specifically global average temperature, she is 100% correct. The projected increase in global average temperature is sometimes above the observed. It is also sometimes below the observed, within a very tiny margin. This projection, by the way, shows business as usual, which is what humanity has been following.
But on the whole, it makes no difference to the validity in the robustness of climate science that is telling us that we are facing an absolute challenge that we must address both environmentally, economically, from a national security perspective, and for EPA from a public health perspective.
All right.
Yes, and if scientists did not know that we are to blame, if they did not have climate models that are correctly projecting future and have correctly and accurately projected the past, we can see the models are doing that. If we did not have those models, if we did not have climatologists, if we did not have scientists, we would still know there's a hell of a problem with the climate. The ice is missing. The flora and fauna are moving to higher latitudes and higher elevations. We know there is a problem. We know it is a major problem. If the scientist were to suddenly disappear in a puff of blue smoke, wafted up to heaven where they all belong, it would still be a problem and we would still have to address it.
Well, of course, carbon pollution is CO2, and that's really not a pollutant. It's a plant food, and it doesn't harm anybody.
Dude, you're supposed to just throw a snowball.
Except that it might include temperature increases.
Might. Almost 200 years of physics says it has, it is, it will. And oh, by the way, it's only a temperature increase.
But so let me ask you one more time. Are you asserting, just give me this answer, if you take the average of the models predicting how fast the temperature would increase?
That's right. An idiot would do that. Senator Sessions would do that. A scientist wouldn't do that.
or is the temperature in fact increasing less than that or more than that?
4. Business as usual, which humanity has been following. The answer is above and below the projections. If this clown had any idea how science works and how climatology works and how climate change models work regarding global average temperature, he would know that question does not make any sense at all. If you take the average trend for both, for the projection and the observed, you got a 3 or 4% below what was projected that has been observed. A hell of a good job done by the climatologist. None of which has anything at all to do with the Environmental Protection Agency.
I cannot answer that question specifically.
Because it's not her job.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I just would say this is a stunning development.
That's what I thought about the tailor who would not tell me how to fix my car, damn it.
That the head of the Environmental Protection Agency, who should know more than anybody else in the world
about protecting the environment,
who's imposing hundreds of billions of dollars in cost.
No, she is trying to prevent hundreds of billions of dollars in cost. And oh, by the way, also saving human lives.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.